Welcome back. If you're someone who totally geeks out over efficiency, smart design, and just finding a better way to do everyday tasks, well, you're in for a treat today. We are going to look at a surprisingly versatile piece of kitchen machinery. We're doing a complete breakdown of something that might seem super simple at first glance, but as we're about to see, it's actually a masterclass in functional design. We are exploring the anatomy of efficiency by examining the multi-blade manual chopper.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of how it works, I want you to think about your own routine in the kitchen. Seriously, how much time do we actually waste meticulously chopping ingredients by hand? We've all been there, right? Standing hunched over a cutting board, desperately trying to get perfectly uniform pieces. It's tedious, it's a huge time sink, and honestly, unless you're a classically trained chef, it can be a massive hassle. That very relatable problem of meal prep fatigue is exactly why today's explainer is so compelling. What if all that time could be condensed into just a fraction of the effort?
Okay, let's dive right into this hub and spoke layout. Right in the center, acting as the main engine, is the manual chopper itself. And radiating out from that central hub are 6 totally distinct culinary outputs, all generated by this exact same device. Today, we're going to take a trip around this wheel, examining what this machine can actually do, starting with the core mechanism itself.
Section 1. The hub. Design anatomy. We really need to give this central device its due respect, because the engineering here is quite literally what makes everything else possible. If we break down the physical components, you'll see that every single part serves a distinct purpose. Right up top, nestle into that secure light pink or maybe peach-colored locking lid, you'll notice a gray ergonomic pull handle. This right here is the manual engine. It's where your physical effort gets converted into mechanical rotation. Just beneath that lid is a completely clear plastic bowl. Now, why does that matter? Well, that transparency is absolutely vital. It lets the user act as the quality control mechanism. You can monitor the texture of your food in real time, so you know exactly when to stop pulling the handle. And finally, the absolute star of the show inside that bowl, 3 sweeping curved metal blades. Notice how they aren't just stacked flat on top of each other. They're actually staggered at different heights along a central spindle. That staggered design is brilliant. It ensures that as the blades spin, they maximize cutting efficiency by catching ingredients no matter where they happen to land in the bowl.
Section 2. Tackling hearty vegetables.
Let's move on and see how this all builds. Traveling outward to our first category, we have a really fascinating contrast between 2 notoriously crunchy, dense vegetables. On one hand, with the celery, we get this coarse, chunky, pale green dice. The pieces are distinct, perfect for a rustic soup base. But then, compare that to the bright orange carrots. The texture achieved here is completely different. It's a much finer, almost shredded consistency. What this tells us is that those staggered blades aren't just hacking away blindly. Depending on the nature of the vegetable, they adapt to produce everything from a clean dice to a really thorough fine shred.
Section 3. Mastering pungent aromatics.
Moving on to those intensely flavored, tear-inducing aromatics, you can see how this device effortlessly handles a totally different kind of culinary challenge. Vibrant red chilies are reduced to a really fine, incredibly uniform chop, while the dark green chilies get this consistent, thorough mince that is just perfect for distributing heat. But I think the most impressive part is the garlic and ginger. They are pulverized into an almost paste-like consistency. Now, what's really interesting about this is the sheer amount of labor you're saving yourself. Just think about the stinging eyes you get from chopping onions or chilies, or those garlic-scented fingers that seem to linger for literal days. By containing all these pungent ingredients in the bowl, the blades do all that delicate, tear-inducing work, while your hands stay perfectly clean and odor-free. A real game-changer for sure.
Section 4. The protein mincing surprise.
Okay, so we've seen vegetables and aromatics, but this brilliantly illustrates the true, surprising power of this device, grinding raw meat. No way, right? This completely defies the typical limits of what we'd ever expect from a simple veggie chopper. Processing raw meat requires some serious force, and it proves that those 3 curved, staggered blades, driven by nothing more than that gray pull handle, actually possess the sheer torque and razor-sharp edge retention needed to break down muscle fibers into a fine mince. This absolutely elevates the tool from just a cute salad prep accessory into a full-blown, heavy-duty kitchen workhorse.
Section 5. The verdict on versatility.
Synthesizing everything we've unpacked across this table, the logic starts to become super clear. We aren't just looking at a random assortment of foods here, we are looking at 3 incredibly demanding, completely distinct culinary categories. For the aromatics, like garlic and chilies, the blades achieved a fine mince all the way down to a smooth paste. For hearty veggies like carrots and celery, they delivered a coarse dice and a fine shred. And for proteins, they actually successfully processed raw meat into a ground mince. Grouping these diverse ingredients together just proves the staggering versatility of this one single device. It handles moisture, density, and tough fibrous textures with equal success.
So looking at the complete picture of this multi-blade efficiency, the absolutely crucial point to take away is this. Every single beautifully minced, diced, shredded, and ground texture was achieved without a single power cord, without a battery, and without having to lug out a heavy food processor. It's all powered entirely by human hands, pulling a handle, activating a beautifully engineered central hub.
Which leads us to a fascinating final thought to wrap up our explainer today. Looking at this sheer range of capabilities, from turning raw meat into mince, to pulverizing garlic into a paste, to beautifully dicing celery, is the era of the traditional chef's knife being challenged by the efficiency of manual, multi-blade design? Could a brilliantly simple pull-string mechanism permanently replace years of specialized knife skills in your own kitchen? Well, it's certainly a compelling question, and what we've explored today makes a very, very strong case for efficiency. Thank you so much for joining me for this focus breakdown, and I will see you in the next explainer.